Welcome, everyone, to the latest and greatest episode of Pirate Vibes here on Big East Energy Network. We are brought to you by Osabasa Spice. Go to osabasaspice.com. Use promo code BIGFlavor15 for 15% off your first order. I'm, of course, joined by Patrick Matt. Pat, it seems like we got a little bit more room in here without Tim. We love Tim, but it just seems we got a little bit more room. The screen's not as crowded.
Hey, it is what it is. You
Tim's
know,
great. I'm not criticizing Tim at all. I'm just saying, like it's like the old days.
Yeah, the old days were 3 months ago.
Yeah, but also like last week I was all by myself, so it's a revolving door around here. Pat, I know we talked about this on the men's show. This is the women's edition. Thank you for tuning in to Pirate Vibes. We're going to do this every week. We're going to do a women's dedicated show. Last week I talked about Jordana Codio. This week we're going to talk about media. Pat, you busy, especially with this women's team. This past Saturday, which was the 17th, or what 17th, 18th, whatever it was, the Saturday. You went to South Orange. You got to see this team firsthand. You got to see them on the action. If you watch the end of this video, you're gonna have about a 2-minute, 3-minute clip of actually them scrimmage each other. You got to talk to the players. What's your experience like being so close to the team over the past week? You've seen them more than a lot of people in the last week.
I think it's a lot of things which Tony Bozella has talked about how close this team is, how he expects them to play, and then the quality of the players themselves. I think the biggest question people have about this team going in is that we all know what Jada Eads is. We all know what Savannah Catalon is. So now the question is, what else is on this team? And obviously, Coach Bozzella has a lot of confidence in his returning players. He's going to have 2 other returning players likely in his starting lineup in Messiah Hunter and then Pinkney. So, if basically, and that's the way it should be if you think about it. You've got to play with the people you're most comfortable with. And then to piggyback off your episode from last Tuesday, Savannah Catalon, Jordana Codio is going to be probably the 5th starter, who is probably as familiar with what Tony Bozella does as anybody else, because her parents, particularly, I think her mother played for Bozzella
for 5 years. Yep.
And then her father was a coach with Bozzella at various points. So all of these players know what playing for Tony Bozella is like. And he's going to, at least in terms of the starting lineup, go with the players who know him and know his system the best. And then you look at what's going to be coming off the bench. Bozzella likes the fact he thinks he can go 10 or 11 deep. He mentions Cam Rust a lot.
Yep.
He mentions a trio of freshman guards: Zahara Bishop, Ari Woodward, and this other guard, Rosa, who's another freshman. And all of them did not look intimidated having to go up against 2 of the best guards in the Big East, in Catalon and Eads. And then you've got Valenzuela, the transfer from Florida State.
He's only been there for 2.5 weeks.
Well, that's what Coach Bozzella said. I don't know what the time frame is. I know when he talked to us in the summer, he wasn't expecting her to be a full participant during the summer sessions because she was playing internationally in Mexico.
Which actually got the connection to that latest recruit, that latest commit.
Yes.
Mexican national point guard that's coming next year. So he's got a little mojo going with Valenzuela. So obviously he's clicking with him with her a little bit.
Right. And of course, that clip I posted when I was at the Family Day homecoming event where she shot the lights out from 3. Didn't quite do that in the scrimmage last Saturday. Again, I think it's a matter, but one thing, and you look and you go in my interview with Coach Bozzella at Media Day in the Garden on Tuesday, I commented that, and he said his team's going to play fast. His team's going to be athletic. They're all going to go up and down the court. So I think that's something where he has nailed what his blueprint was in terms of the players that he's brought in. and I think it's going to be an exciting brand of basketball. Something which, if you're not planning on attending women's games this season, you should do so. Starting with the game that's going to be taking place a week after this episode airs, November 4th, against Peters. And guess what? Unfortunately, you don't have a lot of opportunities to see the Pirates at home before Big East play starts, because they're going to be playing a lot of road games. They're going to be going to San Francisco. They're going to be going to Pacific. They're going to be
Raleigh. I'll be there.
NC State.
Yep.
And then they play one of those two games against an Ivy League team on the road. So your chances to see the Pirates are going to be, before Big East play starts, are going to be few and far between. So make sure you mark your calendars and get yourself out to Walsh, because you will not be disappointed with the product you see from these women when they take the court this season.
You talk about this product, and obviously everyone laughs about the coaches poll and everything, but I think the biggest anticipation for the women's was who's going to get Geno's vote. And Seton Hall got Geno's vote this year, which you could shake your head at, doesn't mean anything, but the last 3 years he's gotten it right. So,
I don't know if he got it right, but all of those teams made the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I believe the last 3 he got right. The last 4 they all made the NCAA tournament.
Right. So
it's a good omen. It's a good omen. He takes
ever
it
doing
seriously.
it knows basketball, whether it's Geno himself or one of
someone from UConn is voting for us, and
right.
that person traditionally is picked correctly.
And look, there's as we've talked about in the various episodes we've talked about, it's a little bit. I don't think you can call Catalon and Eads the best backcourt in the Big East, because obviously AZ Fudd's going to be the number 1 draft pick, going to be in the top 3 in the WNBA draft come next April. So you got to sort of take that out of the equation. But I think they can stand up to anybody else in the Big East, and likely anybody else on our schedule, including NC State, Auburn, Princeton, and Columbia. Put Eads and Catalon up against anybody. And, one thing which has been a hallmark of basketball on both sides, both the men and the women, is that the best backcourt usually leads to victories. And Seton Hall will have that almost every night this season.
Fair enough. All right, we're going to go to Media Day in New York City. You talk to Coach Bozella. This clip's about 2 minutes, and then we'll discuss. Here's Patrick.
Never.
If you had to describe the Big East to somebody, what would your answer be?
Really good, really competitive, very balanced, very talented, and very, very underrated.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
which is why we should be getting 4 or 5 bids next season.
Those teams don't. Those people don't realize that Butler wins at Indiana last year. We win at Cincinnati. There's a lot of big Power 4 wins that we have that people just overlook because they look out through the whole just what we do against each other, and we beat each other up. So I think it's very underrated. I do.
What's one thing people are going to watch your team this season and be surprised about?
I don't know if they'll be surprised. I think surprised at our speed. I think there's a faster team than we've had in the past, and starts obviously with Savannah and Jada. But I think it's a very fast team, and we haven't been as fast in the past.
I'm surprised at how well Jordana and Mariana run the court.
Yeah, they do. They do. Our posts and Cam, our other transfer, runs it really well as well. So our posts have a chance to run the floor really well.
Because I clipped all the action on Saturday, and I noticed how fast everything was.
It was.
Your freshman guards are excellent. They're ahead of what you would expect.
Absolutely. If the freshman guards can stay healthy, they'll be a big boost to our team for sure.
Woodward and Rosa, and who's the third girl on this?
Zahara.
Yeah, Bishop. That's right.
Yeah,
how do I forget about that?
Yeah, she's very talented.
Yeah, you keep those girls along with what else you got, and you're going to be in the top end of this league.
Yeah,
and hopefully making multiple NCAA tournaments in a row.
One at a time, though.
First of all, Coach Bozella is probably my favorite interview out of the whole women's side, and that includes Geno. Just listen. I can listen to him talk. I saw him on the Peacock, and he just great, and he loves his team and he loves Seton Hall. So you saw all 3 of those guards at live action. Would you say Zahara Bishop's the number one girl right now, right? Out of three?
I think that I think that's minimizing what Rosa and Woodward bring to the table. The clips I saw, Woodward looked every bit the shooter that, Bishop did. And Rosa wanted the ball. Again, you're going up against all Big East guards. The way they didn't put the starters against they didn't put the starters against the second team. They basically put Codio and Catalon on one team, and they put the three other starters on the other team. And Eads did not play most of the. She played enough to get her legs going, but she played about half the action. So, but they had no fear, the three of them, going up, and again, they've only been there for like a month and a half, and they have no fear. I think you could probably put them in to substitute for Eads and Catalon and not miss much of a beat. Now I know that Pinckney is the player who Coach Bozzella is sort of looking at as the backup point guard. And she did play a lot of the point during that scrimmage when Eads was on the bench, or, Eads spent a lot of time in the stationary bike, I guess, to stay warm. So, Pinckney's going to, he talked a lot about Pinckney being sort of like the second ball handler. He obviously intends on Catalon just going about looking for her spots and looking for her shot. So I think that this is sort of like he knows what the blueprint is for how his team plays best. So I think that's something to look for. But I mean, if he has to, I think he can go to any one of those other guards and he's not going to drop off that much with the freshman.
Fair enough. Media day, after talking to all five girls, anything really stand out between the five girls that were there? Obviously, Shaylin Pinckney, Messiah Hunter, Jordana Codio, Jada Eads, and Savannah Catalon were there. Anyone that stands out? And any weird questions? I know we talked about on the men's side. Tim asked random questions. What do you think? Just give us a little bit of a vibe on the five ladies that were there.
Well, my Codio interview took place on Saturday. Yeah. And what impressed me about her, first of all, this is not her first rodeo.
Yeah.
I'm going to say a few things differently than what you said regarding her fit. And I think she is someone who, I think the other thing which is important about her is that she can ease some of the spotlight away from Eads and Catalon. Again, this is something where, everyone's going to be laser focused. I don't know if it's going to translate the play on the court, but in terms of, who is, the word diva is not quite the right word. And it's interesting because I asked her about, I don't know if this is going to, if her clip shows up, I asked her what people don't know about her off the court. And she said she's into musical theater.
Well, before you give out the whole interview, let's hear it straight from Jordana Codio.
The coach obviously is a big fan of yours, knows your family from way back in the day at Iona.
Yes.
So is that something which played a factor in you coming to Seton Hall?
A little bit. I mean, obviously myself and my family have a lot of trust in Coach B. And I mean, on top of that, just them having a great team throughout these years was obviously the main factor of me coming. But the trust that I have in Coach B definitely played a factor for sure.
What's a couple of things you've been working on in the off season to improve your game and get yourself ready for, this is your graduate season, right?
It's my senior season, but I have a extra year as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I mean, I've just been working on a lot of things, more consistency in my shot, especially from beyond the arc. I mean, just like all the little things, obviously guarding as well, and just, being more consistent overall.
What's it like playing with Jada and Savannah?
It's great. I mean, I love them on and off the court. They're great point guards and guards to play with, and they make me better as well as me making them better. So playing with them has been great.
What's one thing the fans should know about you that they might not know about Jordana Codio?
I mean, I work very hard. I don't take plays off, and I'm super excited to perform for you guys as well as for my team. So it will be fun to watch.
What's an off the court thing that the
Oh,
fans should know about you?
I mean, I always say this, but I did musical theater for most of high school, and I took like acting classes, theater classes, and so I don't know. I feel like that's
You
something
got a
not a lot of
favorite
people
play
know
that
about.
you did in high school?
Hairspray.
Oh, Hairspray.
Yes,
Oh, really?
yeah.
That's
But Hamilton's
old school.
my favorite.
Oh, Hamilton. Oh, well.
Of all time. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So you're giving something to the older people like me and the younger people in your generation.
Absolutely.
Well,
Pat, great interview, first of all. Do you think Jordana is kind of the faith role in the sense of that veteran, kind of been there moment, like led the team after speaking to her and actually watching her? I mean, I know they're not the same exact player. Obviously, they're not the same player, but I'm saying that leadership role.
I think she's. Look, I mean, I think Eads and Catalon are the leaders on this team.
Yep.
They've been here before. They're getting all Big East honors. You know, and they're the ones who have played for Tony Bozella the longest, and excluding Pinckney, of course. Pinckney and Hunter are juniors and seniors.
Yeah.
But in terms, I think she sort of, you know, that to sort of put it in, you know, musical theater or to put it in that context, you know, she comes in sort of in the middle of Act 2 and sort of the story then shifts over to her. I think she's sort of a different type of element. And you also notice that sort of on the court as well. You know, you sort of, she's in her own little realm when she's playing. And luckily that realm fits into what everything else is going around her. She sort of knows, hey, you know, I'm sort of sitting back here a little bit. I'm looking for the opportunities. The game's going to come to me a little bit, as opposed to what happens with Eads and Catalon. Eads is obviously going to have the ball, and Catalon's going to be her first look. But I think then, you know, I think she understands that her role is to be a supporting player and then to sort of show people what she can do. Because unfortunately, she didn't have a lot of those opportunities when she played at Texas. You know, she had to sit the bench a lot, you know, didn't get on the court as often as a player of her caliber got. But I mean, that's unfortunately the nature of being on a top 5 team that's got national championship aspirations. Other players are going to, the players who the coach thinks are the best are going to be out there. And I think that's the one thing I think which she probably relishes her opportunity here at Seton Hall, because she's one of the better, again, you know, you want to say she's the 3rd best player in this team. You know, you can do that. You have no slight to Pinckney or Hunter. You know, I think that there is something about there's something she's got to step up talent-wise from the other girls who are going to be getting the most minutes on this team.
Well, she was highly recruited out of Florida. Obviously, she goes to Texas, which I believe at the time was still in the Big 12, which is a great conference, and then goes to the SEC, which is a great conference. I just think she's going to bring some excitement, and I think you actually hit out of the park right there about explaining her role on this team. The team's at a different age than when Faith was here last year. They are mature. Savannah and Jada are mature, so she doesn't have to come and be the most mature in the room, but she does bring maturity. Is that a fair assessment?
Right. I think that what Bozzella was doing with Mizzona's last season was putting her sort of, I know this is a weird term, she was sort of in the mothering role. And she was the one who, if nobody else was picking up the pieces, Mizzona's was. You know, Codio doesn't have that level of responsibility. You know, she can be sort of the supporting actress to play on her love of musical theater. She's the supporting actress coming in and, you know, making sure the crowd is still entertained. Maybe a change of pace. You know, again, she's 6'2", 6'3", yet she's got a game which makes her look more like she's 5'9" or 5'10", because of her ability to hit the outside shot, because of her ability to run the court. and some of the other things that she does well. She's obviously not Sarah Strong of Connecticut. There's obviously she's not quite at that level, but I think that for purposes of what this team needs, she fills in a lot of gaps that you don't get because Eads and Catalon are on the smaller end of what you're going to see in most backcourts.
I think it also helps her that she's a coach's kid, right? Like that helps her a lot where this team is at, where she knows, obviously she's been in the Final Four, she's performed in the Final Four, she knows what winning basketball looks like, and I think she could bring that, but not as the term, just to use the same term, as motherly that Faith was. It's more of hold everyone accountable leadership in the gym, especially Savannah and Jada. If she's able to hold them accountable and elevate their game, now the team has elevated themselves. Anything before we get to the quick little clip of Savannah Catalon? Anything else that you pick up from the vibe? Remember, we're going to play about a 2-3 minute video at the end of highlights when Pat saw them on Saturday. Anything else you want to throw out there? Because St. Peter's is coming real quick. I know we said this on the men's side because they both start with the same team, but St. Peter's is coming quick.
Yeah, I want to see what Mariana Valenzuela brings to this team at the end of the day. Again, she's probably going to be coming off the bench, and I think she's going to be playing a role which is a little bit different than she's maybe used to playing. Although if you watch clips of her, and I did so when we picked up the other recruit from Mexico, I watched clips of her playing international in the, I think it was the America's Cup this summer for Mexico, for her home country. There was one game in particular that she dominated, obviously because they were playing a lesser opponent. But you could tell she was focusing more on her inside game because obviously, she's 6'2", and, I don't know how big the players were for the Mexican team, but she obviously had to play more of a role down low than she might have been used to playing at Florida State or in her career here in the United States. And I think that's something that she's going to be asked to do when she's coming off the bench here at Seton Hall. She's a bigger presence than Hunter is, and Hunter is likely going to be playing most of the game down low. So it's a little bit of a contrast. I don't know if she's as athletic as Messiah Hunter is, but she's going to need to do some rebounding. She's going to need to score some points down low, but then she can also fool you when she goes outside and hits some jumpers from 3-point range. So I think she's someone who, I don't know if she's going to be the sixth player off the bench for Seton Hall. I think that's likely given her pedigree and given her skill set. And again, that's something which could be very important, particularly when you run into those games where you have foul trouble, or God forbid, somebody has an injury and has to miss a few games. You can bring a player of Valenzuela's experience and skill set and not miss too much because you're asking her to take a starting role on this team.
Well, hopefully she can play defense when you play the bigger teams like UConn with the two Sarahs down low. That Valenzuela can offer that, that second with Messiah Hunter down low on defense. All right, Pat, we're going to play this last 20-second clip of Savannah Catalon at Big East Media Day.
Team that can come together and work with what we have to still get a win.
I mean, how would you view, how you were last year, and then with the pieces that you lost, but also some of the big pieces that you add? How excited does that make you to maybe put yourself in the best position possible to make the tournament for the first time in, again, 10 years, I believe it's been?
Yeah, we lost a lot of important pieces, Faith last year. She was really huge for us, but we also...
Cameraman Pat was on top of that one there.
Tim Best, who's done some of our men's episodes, was doing that interview. I had interviewed Catalon the Saturday before. Yeah. So, and
she's I want to say the biggest personality on the team, the vocal leader. Is that fair to say that she's kind of like the in front of the camera leader the most?
Yeah, I think again, you to look at that duo of Eads and Catalon, I think that Eads does most of her talking on the court.
Yep.
Whereas Catalon
And that's no slight to Catalon. She's got a great
No.
game. It's just
Oh
that
yeah. Oh, you've watched those clips
prefers
of
to be
her
on the
playing
court,
in
and
that tournament,
Catalon can do either.
and there's a reason why Coach Bozzella has said on a number of occasions that he thinks they definitely would have been a tournament team had Catalon not missed that big chunk of time she did in the middle of last season. They would have won a few of those, and maybe they would have won those Creighton games or wouldn't have lost to Marquette at home. And those 2 wins probably would have been enough with everything else Seton Hall did to make the NCAA tournament. So hopefully you have a healthy Savannah Catalon this season where you don't have to play the what if game. What if she gives you 28 or 29 games out of 29 on the schedule? Seton Hall is going to be in the best position to rack up the number of wins they're going to need to get over the finish line and into the NCAA tournament.
All right, Pat. Any last words on this women's team before we start digging into actual game footage? Because I believe this episode comes out a week before the season kickoff, or the season tip-off. Any final words? You've seen them more than most, so.
I would say, again, as I think I mentioned earlier on, if you're not buying stock, the time is now. Because one of the things which happened last year was that it took a while for people to get on the bandwagon with this team. Yeah. So don't wait till they pull off. Don't wait till they beat the Auburns or they beat the Princetons or they beat the Columbias.
NC State.
Well, okay. that is the reach game on the schedule, on the non-conference schedule for sure. But in terms of don't wait until I don't know how far away they are from this. Don't wait until there's a number next to the Seton Hall name.
Yeah.
If that's a remote possibility this season, because that's sort of, Walsh doesn't have as many seats as you think it does. And the days of 100 people showing up at Walsh for a women's game, at least with this team, is over. So get on board now. Get yourself into this. We live in and I talk with other coaches I talked to on Tuesday. They understand how women's basketball is now a thing because of Caitlin Clark, because of the growth of the NBA, to maybe even to a certain extent Paige Beckers. They know what basketball is. So this is the time to invest in women's. I know somebody else who
I think that's on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I think that's slogan. Yeah.
This is the time to invest in Seton Hall women's basketball. So
without a doubt,
find a way to get to at least a few games this season if you haven't thought about it already.
Well, this is a little bit personal, but in my local area, girls basketball at the high school level is not the greatest. Like, girls just don't play basketball. But there's a middle school group, and I know I'm partial because my daughter plays, but they had 51 girls try out at the middle school basketball team, when typically their numbers are about 22. So they went from 22 to 51 because this generation it's changing in women's sports, and I think teams like Seton Hall are benefiting from it, where their competition is getting better, and Tony Bozella is able to find talent, a little bit more depth and talent, I should say, like the Zahara Bishops, the Rosas, all the young ladies on the team. All right, Pat, we did another one. I think we're ready for actual basketball. Not Pat going up on media day, a basketball that we both can see. I think we're ready for that. All right, Pat, we will touch base after the season starts, I believe. Go Pirates. But before you turn off your YouTube device, we will have 2 minutes of video right here. Thanks. This is Pirate Vibes on Big East Energy Network.